My sister said join us for dinner, we'll celebrate you, but when I got there the waiter gave me a paper wristband that said guess the limit. My mom whispered, that means no enter, just drinks. I smiled, walked to the bar, and switched my tab to their table half. An hour later my brother screamed who ordered the $400. Why once again, that disappointed me at this point. I don't even know why still let it get to me. You'd think after all these years I'd be numb to it. But somehow every time it still stinks, there's always that stubborn quiet hope that maybe this time will be different, that they'll act like family, that they'll remember I'm not just the guy who wires the money. He or picks up their slack. But they never do. My name's Lucas. I'm 33, originally from Fort Worth, Texas. These days, I live in Austin. I've been working in IT since I graduated. Nothing glamorous, but stable. I've done all right for myself. My siblings didn't. My parents never really managed much either, and somewhere along the way my success became their safety net. They started depending on me, and I, like an idiot, let them for the past 5 years. I've been bailing them out, little things, at first gas money, help with groceries, the occasional bill. But it escalated. One month I was covering my sister's read the neck. My dad's car broke down and needed $1,200 worth of repairs. I said, yes, every time. No thanks, no appreciation, just a quiet expectation that I'd say yes again next time. Then came the text from my older sister, come to dinner, we'll celebrate you. No call, no details, just that it was the day before my birthday, and I hadn't planned anything, so I figured fine. Maybe it was their way of making up for things. Maybe they finally saw me as more than a wallet. The restaurant was upscale, way more than I expected from them. I even had a brief second of doubt, like maybe I misjudged them. Maybe they really pulled together to do something nice. I walked in and gave the host my name, and he handed me a paper wristband. It was bright green, cheap, like the kind you get at carnivals or club events. I glanced down and read it, limited guest. I looked up confused. The host just smiled and pointed me to the back of the restaurant. The table was all ready for my parents, both sisters, and my brother. They were eating appetizers, laughing like nothing in the world could bother them. My mom waved me over like I was late to a party I didn't even ask to attend. I sat down. My mom leaned toward me and said quietly, that wristband means no enter, just drinks. We couldn't afford full meals for every one. I nodded, didn't say a word. She smiled like it was no big deal and went back to her. Why, my brother made a dumb joke about how they had to put me on a budget. My younger sister giggled and said something about how cocktails were more my vibe. Anyway, I just sat there watching them pass plates around. No one asked how I was. No one brought a gift. No one even said happy birthday until I ordered a drink and toasted myself. That was the moment something snapped. I excused myself, walked to the bar, and asked the bartender to switch my tab to the table. Then I asked for the most expensive read. They had a $400 bottle. I knew they wouldn't notice until it hit the check. I poured myself a glass, returned to the table, and sat down, sipping it slowly, while they continued on like I didn't exist. 30 minutes later, the check arrived. My brother picked it up and immediately shouted across the table who ordered the $400. Why, they all started looking at each other. My mom asked what that meant. My sister's mouth fell open. I just sat there and finished my glass. Then I stood up and said thanks for the drinks, and I walked out. I didn't go home right away. I drove around the city for a while, thinking about all the times I'd said yes when I should have said no, all the things they took without even pretending to be grateful. And now on my own birthday, they had the audacity to limit me. That dinner wasn't just a disappointment, it was a final reminder this family didn't love me. They tolerated me, used me, and expected me to keep showing up like nothing was wrong. But that was the last time I play alone. It didn't even take 2 days. Sunday afternoon, I was halfway through organizing the garage, trying to clear my head and forget the dinner, When I heard the knock, not a polite knock either, it was rushed and heavy, the kind of knock that says, "We're not here to chat." I opened the door and there they were, my mom, dad, my brother David, and my older sister, Melanie, standing in a tight little line like they'd rehearsed it in the car. David didn't even say hello, he just parked. "You think you're funny, huh? Ordering a $400 bottle like you're teaching us a lesson." My dad jumped before I could even react. "You dumped an $900 bill on us, Lucas. 900, are you out of your mind?" I didn't answer, I just stood there staring at them. It felt surreal. Like they'd just forgotten the part where they invited me to a birthday dinner with a damn wristband that said limited guest. Melanie rolled her eyes and pushed past me into the house without waiting for permission. She walked into my living room like it was hers. "You've always been dramatic, but this was petty, vindictive. You embarrassed us." Finally shut the door behind them. Even though I hadn't actually invited the man, I figured they wanted to yell somewhere that didn't have a dress code. My mom didn't say much at first, just followed them and quietly. But once everyone else stopped talking, she let loose. "You humiliated us, Lucas. You think that was funny, making a scene on your birthday of all days after we took the time to plan the dinner for you." That word "plan" almost made me laugh, like slapping a drink wristband on your own son and giving everyone else for menus was thoughtful. They went on for a while, David pacing in front of the couch like a lawyer, presenting evidence, Melanie perched on the armrest, arms folded, waiting for me to cave, my dad acting like it was some kind of life lesson, and my mom, she just looked like she wanted me to apologize and hand over a check that I let them talk. Every complaint, every guilt trip, every accusation. When they were done, I asked just one question: "Why do you all believe I owe you anything?" That froze them, so I kept going down. I reminded my dad about the $1,100 for his brakes barely 6 weeks ago, my mom's $200 medication back in February, that for 4 years I covered their groceries during the pandemic every single month without fail. I reminded Melanie of the $4,000 I gave her when she lost her job and the $1,000 she still takes from me each month, even though she hasn't worked in over a year. I reminded David of the time he showed up at my place with his 6-year-old crying because the lights had been cut off and no one denied a thing. They just sat there shifting in their seats like a spotlight had been turned on. That's when I told them I wouldn't be paying the $900 dinner bill, that I didn't know them anything, not that night, not before, not anymore, that I was tired of being their emergency fund. Melanie snapped. "First, so you're cutting us off after everything?" "Everything," I said. "You mean everything I've done while you all took advantage of me?" She stormed out at him. Why, Dad shook his head and muttered about how money had changed me. My mom called me cold. David said I'd regret it. I didn't respond, or just opened the door and waited. One by one, they walked out. No goodbyes, no looking back. When the door finally closed, I stood still for a moment, listening to the silence. It felt good, empty, but clean, like something toxic had been cleared out. The next day, the messages began. My mom sent a long one about how I was losing myself and how family means sacrifice. Melanie fired off 3 guilt-soaked texts in a row. "Some people forget where they came from. You're not better than us, Lucas. You're just lucky." David kept it short, real mature man. But the one that stood out came from my dad on Thursday night. "The roof's in bad shape. Inspector says it won't make it through the next door. We need $4,500. Can you help?" I stared at it for a long while, then I deleted it. No response, no explanation. That was the first real call, and it felt like freedom. As after that, everything went quiet. No more group texts, no forced family memes from my mom, no guilt-laced quotes from Melanie. Even David, who usually couldn't last 3 days without some passive-aggressive jab, stayed silent. 81st, the quiet felt strange, like standing in a room after an explosion waiting for the dust to settle. But then I realized I liked it. I started sleeping better, eating better for the first time in years. I wasn't waking up to check who needed money, who was hinting at help, who was pretending not to know how to pay a bill that. A week later, it started again, slower this time. Melanie texted me, "Hey, I know things have been tense, but I really need help this month. Just $1,000 like usual, please." That infuriated me more than anything, like it was routine, like I was some kind of paycheck she was entitled to. I stared at the message for a full minute before replying, "That stops now." No explanations, no back and forth. I hit send and went on with my day. 3 hours later, she sent 6 more messages. The first was in all caps, the second tried to be emotional, the third accused me of enjoying her suffering. The rest swung between anger and desperation. I didn't answer any of them that same day. My mom left a voicemail. She never actually calls, just recall. Bird's long tearful voice notes. I almost never listen to the. And this one started with her saying family always forgives and ended with her hoping I wouldn't let a small misunderstanding destroy our bond. I deleted it without a second thought. Dobby, why Saturday? My dad texted again, not about the roof, this time about car maintenance. Something about tires, only $600. He wrote like it was pocket change. I didn't even open it, just swiped left and muted the thread. Then came the one I knew would sting the most, my younger sister Rachel. She hadn't been at the birthday dinner. She was the only one who ever treated me like a human being. She rarely asked for anything, and when she did, it was always small, spread out, and respect. For that Sunday, she messaged me, "Hey, I heard everything blew up. I'm not getting into it, but I do need to ask something. I'm short this month. Can you help? Maybe $300 or even $500. She was careful. She knew the air had changed, but I still told her no. I said I was stepping back from being everyone's safety net, that I needed to prioritize myself for once. She replied, "Once okay. I get it." No guilt, no manipulation, just quiet acceptance. I didn't block her, but I knew that moment mattered. The part of me that always kept one hand open just in case someone needed it was finally closing, not from anger, not from spite, but from exhaustion. And when I say tired, I don't mean lack of sleep. I mean bone-deep exhaustion, the kind you can't fix with a weekend off, the kind that demands you change everything, daughter. So I started making changes I can. Sold the automatic payment to Melanie on link to the grocery store account I'd been using to cover my parents' deliveries. Took my name off the family phone plan I've been paying for years. Bit by bit, I was cutting the ropes that kept me tied down. For the first time in years, I can finally breathe. It have been about 3 weeks since the birthday dinner disaster, since I walked out of that overpriced restaurant and left them to sit with their own greed. In that time, they tried every guilt trip. They knew texts, calls, voice messages, even carefully worded social media posts. I ignored every single one. That the silence that followed wasn't peace, it was strategy. I knew how they operated. They were regrouping, waiting for the right moment to come back harder. That moment came on a Thursday morning. I was walking home, just trying to enjoy the quiet for what's. No phone, no noise, just crisp air in an empty sidewalk. When I reached the mailbox, I saw it right away, a thick hair and delivered envelope, no stamp, no return address, my name written in my mom's dramatic cursive. I hadn't gotten a letter from her in years, not since I refused to go sign David's loan, and she called it betrayal that I read this one all the way through. At first, the usual guilt, "We love you, Lucas, you've changed. Is this Lee worth throwing everything away?" Then came the real reason. I know about the property in Wimberley. I froze. No one knew about that, not even Rachel. It wasn't finalized yet, just a plan, a cabin I was saving for. But now they did. She wrote about sharing and how I should sell it to help with Dad's roof and Melody's expenses. The words stripped with threat. It wasn't about family, it was about control. That I burned the letter that night in a fire pit. Not communication, not a plea, a warning. They weren't letting go. They were coming for what I hadn't even built, yet the next morning I drove out to the land, still dirt and trees. But mine, I called the bill. There to move up the timeline and my lawyer to lock everything down in my name. I wasn't running, I was building an exit point. 2 weeks later, Melanie texted, "Let's just talk, one dinner." No drama. Part of me wanted to ignore it, but part of me was curious. So I agree that we met at a small Italian place, dim lighting, warm bro. Read too many photos of wrong. I arrived after Rachel, who gave me a tight smile, but said nothing. My parents and David came next. Melanie showed up last, dressed like she had something to prove. Everyone acted polite, at first like strangers, sharing a last name that we ordered food and made small talk about traffic, weather, even Netflix. It felt fake, but calm until my dad set down his fork and said, "We're worried about you." DMY mom added, "You're cold now, not who you used to be." Melanie jumped in, "You act like we're enemies, like family means nothing." David leaned in, "You become selfish. Money doesn't make you better than us." That I put my fork down. "Yeah, you're right, I've changed. I had to, because I finally saw the truth. I was always the one fixing everything. You took and took the second I stopped suddenly on the villain. My mom tried to cut in. I didn't let her. You had no problem watching me bleed money. But when I keep something for myself, I'm cold. You didn't come to tie